The word slid from her mouth like poison dipped in sugar. You'll watch my kids on the $5,000 trip you paid for. She smirked, tapping her manicured nail on the itinerary she'd printed with my card. I remember staring at her, at my best friend of 12 years, and feeling my lungs tighten, as if my body instinctively refused to breathe the same air as her anymore. Lila, the woman who once held my hand through my divorce. The one who knew every crack in my heart, who sent me late-night memes and texts saying, "We'll build back better, babe." The woman I trusted so deeply, I gave her access to my business accounts when she offered to help manage my growing travel concierge startup. And now she stood in my living room, sunlight catching the diamond earrings I bought her as a thank you, telling me I'd be the babysitter on a luxury retreat I didn't even know I'd paid for. The air between us buzzed with quiet disbelief. I forced a laugh. "You're joking, right?" Her lips curved, not quite a smile, more like satisfaction. "Oh, come on, Mara. You love kids. You said it yourself, you need a break from work. So I figured we all could go." "My treat. My treat." I echoed, the syllables dry and brittle. She shrugged. "Technically yours, but details." That's when I saw it, the faint flicker of cruelty in her eyes. The one I'd always pretended wasn't there. I wanted to scream, to demand she explain how she even dared use my business card, but my voice betrayed me. All I managed was a whisper. "Lila, you stole from me." She tilted her head, still perfectly calm. "Stole? Oh, sweetie, don't be dramatic. You told me to book team retreats for high-end clients. I just booked one for us instead. Business expense." The rational part of me, the one that survived a cheating ex-husband and the slow death of my trust in people, told me to walk away, to gather evidence, to breathe. But the emotional part, the wounded, naive part that still wanted to believe in friendship, cracked open. I laughed again, only this time it came out broken. "For us. And your kids." "Well, yeah," she said, twirling a strand of her glossy hair. "Jake thought it'd be good for them. Family bonding time." That name. Jake. My chest constricted. I hadn't heard it from her lips in months. Not since I told her my ex-husband had started texting her after the divorce. Back then, she'd sworn they were just talking about the kids' playdates, because Jake's niece went to the same daycare as her twins. Now, hearing her say his name again made my skin prickle. "You and Jake?" I asked slowly, watching her face. A beat. A shift in her expression. Almost imperceptible. Then the casual shrug. "He's been helping me with some investments. You know, financial advice." My heart thudded. Right. Financial advice. There it was again, that flash of guilt-turned smirk. The same look Jake wore when I caught him texting "Goodnight, Red Heart" to another woman. I saw it then, the betrayal wasn't just about money. It was layered, deep, intentional. And it wasn't over. That night I couldn't sleep. The walls of my apartment seemed to pulse with betrayal. Every picture, every shared memory with Lila taunted me. I poured myself a glass of wine and stared at the invoices on my laptop. The trip to Bali, 5-star resort, private villa, spa treatments, luxury excursions. All charged to my business account. $5,127.84. Lila's name listed as guest of honor. I scrolled further. She'd also booked a couple's massage. Under Jake and Lila. For a long moment I couldn't move. The world blurred, like my mind refused to process it. I'd lost my husband to lies. Now my best friend had taken what little trust one had left. But beneath the heartbreak something else stirred, slow and steady, like embers reigniting in ashes. Not rage. Not yet. Resolve. I opened a blank note and began typing everything I knew. Dates, transactions, emails. Every tiny breadcrumb she'd left behind. If Lila wanted a trip, I'd let her have it. But this time I'd be the one pulling the strings. The next morning I called her, forcing lightness into my tone. "Hey, I've been thinking maybe you're right. I do need a break." Her giggle was bright, oblivious. "See? I knew you'd come around. I booked an extra room just for you." I smiled into the phone, eyes cold. "Perfect. Can't wait." When I hung up, I whispered to the empty room. "Neither can I." Bali looked like a dream painted over a nightmare. The sunlight spilled gold across the ocean, the waves whispering secrets against black volcanic sand. But beneath the shimmer of paradise my chest was a storm. I stepped off the shuttle and adjusted my sunglasses, the thick tropical air wrapping around me like a lie. Lila was already there, perched on a lounger in a flowing white cover-up that screamed Instagram influencer, her kids splashing in the infinity pool. And beside her, reclining tan smug, was Jake, my ex-husband. He lifted his sunglasses just long enough to meet my eyes, then smirked like the devil himself had whispered something funny in his ear. "Hey, Mara," he drawled, like we were casual acquaintances, not two people whose marriage had imploded under the weight of deceit. Lila waved lazily. "Surprise. Jake joined us last minute. He needed the break too." My throat burned. I forced a smile that felt like glass cutting my skin. Of course he did. Jake stood, stretching, the same move he used to make when he wanted attention. "You look good," he said, voice low. "Better than I expected." I wanted to tell him he looked exactly like what he was, a parasite wearing cologne. But I just nodded, my pulse hammering in my ears. Because now the betrayal had a face. A shared mocking smile. Dinner that night was a theater of lies. The resort restaurant glowed under hanging lanterns, laughter floating through the air. Lila kept refilling my wine, acting as though nothing between us had shattered. Jake kept touching her hand, little, almost imperceptible grazes, but I saw everyone. "So," Jake said casually, "Lila's been helping me with some investments. Turns out she's got a good head for business." Lila giggled. "I learned from the best." She meant me. My stomach twisted. I pushed a shrimp around my plate, every nerve screaming. The two of them had built this fantasy, using my money, my company, my memories. And yet I smiled. Because anger, when honed, becomes precision. "Sounds like a great partnership," I said softly. "You two make quite the team." Jake's eyes narrowed slightly, sensing something in my tone. But Lila just beamed. "I knew you'd understand," she said. "You've always been so generous." Generous. The word cracked something open inside me. The next morning I played my part perfectly. Lila asked me to keep an eye on her twins while she and Jake checked out the local markets. My jaw clenched, but I agreed. While the kids built sandcastles, I sat under the umbrella, scrolling through emails on my tablet. My lawyer had responded. He'd found enough evidence to prove Lila had embezzled from the company account. And Jake, dear Jake, had received 2 wire transfers from her under consulting fees. They hadn't just stolen from me. They'd laundered it through him. I stared at the turquoise horizon, my pulse finally steady. The betrayal no longer surprised me, clarified me. They thought I was broken, but I was just quiet. And quiet was dangerous. That evening, I joined them at the villa for drinks. The ocean roared in the background, and fairy lights twinkled above the patio. Lila poured me a glass of champagne, her laughter bubbling louder than the fizz. "To friendship," she said, raising her glass. I met her eyes. "To truth," I said. Jake frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" I shrugged. "Oh, just that sometimes people lie so well they start believing their own stories. Until someone reminds them the receipts don't lie." Lila froze for half a second, just long enough for me to know she felt it. Then she laughed, high and brittle. "You always overthink things, Mara. Relax. We're on vacation." "Right," I said. Vacation. Inside, my plan was already unfolding. Earlier that day, I'd had a quiet conversation with the resort manager, explaining how the trip was booked with stolen funds from my business. He'd been sympathetic and, more importantly, cooperative. The accounts were under investigation now. Every charge flagged. The resort would let the trip continue, but only to gather evidence. I sipped my champagne, watching Lila's laughter ripple across the pool's reflection, her diamonds glittering in the soft light. She didn't know that by tomorrow those diamonds would mean nothing. Later, as the group dispersed, Jake approached me near the water's edge. "Still mad?" he asked softly, hands in his pockets. "Not mad," I said. "Disappointed. There's a difference." He chuckled. "You always were too emotional." "Emotional?" I turned to him fully. "Funny, I used to think you were just misunderstood. Turns out you were predictable." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You think you're above me? You're not. You needed someone to make you feel alive again. You just picked the wrong guy." "Maybe," I said, smiling faintly. "But I picked the right ending." He blinked, confused. "What?" I just walked away, leaving him with the waves and his arrogance. That night, in the quiet glow of my room, I sent one final email, attaching every file, receipt, and screenshot to my lawyer. Tomorrow morning, Lila's dream vacation would turn into a very public reckoning. As I closed my laptop, I caught my reflection in the mirror. My eyes were tired, yes, but clear. This wasn't just revenge. It was reclamation. Still, as I crawled into bed, a thought tugged at the edge of my mind. Was I ready to watch her fall? Because even after everything, a small broken part of me still remembered the friend who once made me laugh until I cried. But that version of us was gone, and I was done mourning ghosts. Morning came with a sky too beautiful for what was about to happen. The kind of beauty that feels like mockery. Clear, radiant, undeserved. I was already awake when the first knock came at Lila's villa door. At first, I heard only muffled voices, her confused tone, Jake's irritated mumble, the polite firmness of the resort manager. Then the sound of papers rustling. A pause. A gasp. Then came the silence, thick, fragile, and trembling with the weight of realization. What do you mean the card was reported? Lila's voice rose, sharp and shrill. We have confirmation from the issuing company, the manager replied evenly. The account has been frozen due to fraudulent activity. Until it's resolved, we'll need an alternate form of payment. That's impossible, she snapped. It's my friend's business card, she said. The manager's tone stayed calm but firm. Miss Allen has confirmed the transactions were unauthorized. Our compliance department has been notified. I could almost hear the panic set in. The stutter in her breathing, the tremor in her voice. She wouldn't do that to me. I smiled faintly at my reflection in the mirror as I finished tying my hair back. Oh, but she did. When I stepped out of my villa, the tension was visible from yards away. Lila stood barefoot in the sand, her phone clutched in her shaking hand, her perfect beach waves frizzed by humidity and panic. Jake hovered beside her, red-faced and whispering furiously. The twins were playing nearby, oblivious. I walked toward them slowly, deliberately, every step heavy with the weight of quiet power. Mara, she said when she spotted me, relief and accusation mixing in her tone. Tell them this is a misunderstanding. They're saying I cut her off with a calm smile. Committed fraud? Embezzled company funds? Laundered money through Jake? No misunderstanding, Lila. You did. Her jaw dropped. You can't prove. Oh, I can, I said softly. And I already did. Jake's expression changed first. The dawning horror of someone who suddenly realized he'd been standing in quicksand this entire time. You set us up, he said. No, I corrected. You set yourselves up. I just stopped pretending not to notice. Lila's voice cracked. I helped you. I built that company with you. You wouldn't even have clients without me. Her words stung because part of them were true. She had helped. She'd been there from the beginning, through the sleepless nights and unpaid invoices, cheering me on when no one else believed in me. But the moment she saw profit, she stopped being a friend and became a thief. You didn't build with me, I said quietly. You built on me. Her eyes shimmered, rage and desperation warring inside them. You're not better than me, Mara. You've just always known how to play the victim. Jake snorted. Yeah, she loves that role. Poor little Mara. Husband cheats, friend betrays, what next? Maybe the world's just tired of your sob story. For a second, the old ache twisted inside me. The shame, the loneliness, the years of wondering if I really was too soft, too trusting, too easy to use. But then something in me shifted. I wasn't the victim. I was the witness. And the judge. I took a deep breath, my voice calm but sharp as glass. You're right, Jake. I was naive. I believed in love that wasn't loyal and loyalty that wasn't love. But you know what's funny? I stepped closer, my voice dropping to a whisper. I'm the one standing here clean. You're the ones drowning in lies you can't even afford to pay for. Lila's face crumpled. Please, Mara, don't do this. Think about my kids. They'll be humiliated. We can fix this, I can pay you back. You can't pay back trust, Lila. Her mouth opened but no sound came. The tears welled, slow, real, human, and for a heartbeat I almost faltered. Almost. Because I'd spent years saving people who threw me away like an old receipt. This time I saved myself. The next 24 hours unfolded like a storm in slow motion. The resort froze her account and confiscated the card used for all charges. My lawyer filed the official claim, and local authorities were notified. Lila and Jake spent the day in frantic calls with banks, lawyers, anyone who would listen. By sunset, their villa was quiet, except for the faint, exhausted crying of Lila's twins. I'd already arranged for the kids to be cared for by the resort's nanny service, all expenses covered by me. Because revenge doesn't mean losing your humanity. It means making sure they see it's something they'll never touch again. On the last morning, I packed my suitcase slowly. The ocean glimmered just beyond the window, the same as it had on day one, only now it no longer mocked me. It mirrored me, calm after chaos. As I was checking out, the resort manager handed me a letter. "Ms. Allen, Ms. Lila asked us to give you this." I hesitated, then opened it. The handwriting was shaky, rushed. I never meant for it to go this far. I was drowning: bills, Jake's promises, the company, everything. I thought I deserved something good for once. "I'm sorry. I don't expect forgiveness. Just thank you for taking care of the kids. Lila." I folded the letter, my heart a knot of sadness and clarity. She wasn't innocent, but she wasn't evil either. She was desperate, greedy, human. And maybe that was the hardest truth of all. That betrayal doesn't always come from villains. Sometimes it comes from the people who once held your hand through the dark. When I boarded the flight home, I sat by the window watching the island shrink beneath clouds. Jake and Lila weren't on the plane. Their passports had been held pending the investigation. My lawyer would handle the rest. As the plane climbed, I let out a long, shaky breath, the kind that feels like surrender and strength at once. I thought about how Lila once told me, "You're too trusting, Mara. That'll get you hurt someday." She was right. It did. But it also made me strong enough to rise after it. When I landed, I opened my phone to hundreds of messages. Reporters asking for statements, colleagues expressing shock, clients offering support. The story was spreading. I typed one short response and posted it to my company page. When someone steals your trust, don't chase them. Rebuild yourself instead. That's the real revenge. I hit post, then locked my phone, watching my reflection in the taxi window as the city lights flickered past. For the first time in years, my reflection looked like someone I recognized. Not the broken woman who'd been betrayed, but the one who'd finally learned how to let them finish talking, and then take everything back.